Hi friends, I'm Hemel, and in this video I'm going to go through the one principle that's made the biggest shift for my recovery from suffering chronic pain for the past 9 years, and that's overcoming fear. That could be the fear that's attached to your medical diagnosis, the fear attached to relying on having treatments done, following protocols. It could also be the fear that's attached to doing regular day-to-day activities. So in this video I'm going to go through the steps to overcome those fears, as well as all the different kind of scenarios that they can occur. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about is medical diagnoses. On the one hand, they're very useful because at least you know what you have. And I remember spending so much time just trying to find a diagnosis because after seeing so many specialists, they couldn't figure out what I was suffering from. So when you're suffering with chronic pain, you go through this process where you're able to do some activities but not others. You might be able to go food shopping, but the thought of having to go to some sort of an event where there's lots of people around, there might be lots of different music, sounds, stimulating all your senses, that could be so overwhelming that it would just instill so much fear in you that you wouldn't want to go. Or it could be as simple as something that I went through myself. Having to sit on a regular sofa was one of the scariest things in the world to me, because as soon as I sat down onto a comfortable sofa, which for most people would be nice and relaxing, but for me it would trigger my pain. And when it comes to things like following protocols of dietary changes, using supplements, I even experimented that for many years, and in my experience it didn't work for me, unfortunately. But I've also realized that that actually made me feel more like I was an unhealthy, chronically ill person, because normal healthy people wouldn't be restricting their diet so heavily. They wouldn't be consuming so many supplements. It's only when someone's suffering, you feel like your body's broken and that you need something to either cleanse your body or to replenish vitamins or minerals that are somewhat lacking. So it gives you the impression that you're broken on the inside, you're physically damaged and you need fixing. That's what made me feel fearful for the future, because I started thinking thoughts of, I'm going to have to live this way forever. I'm never going to be able to eat out. I'm never going to be able to meet my friends and do social activities. And whenever I go on holiday, I'd have to be so strict and limit myself to just eating the cleanest foods out there and not actually experience the fine cuisines that the country has to offer. And for me, that made me miserable. And it made me fearful that this future is not something that I wanted to look forward to. It didn't feel exciting to me. I even went through a stage where I was so fearful to even talk to anyone, because if I got involved in engaging in a conversation, it would trigger my pain. That would cause more pain in my head. That would cause my whole body to tighten up, and I would just be in agony. So my understanding back then was to do as little as possible, to stay away from all external triggers that could be causing my pain. But as a result, it was actually making my world smaller and smaller. I was doing less, I was meeting less people. I kind of vanished from existence from all my friends and family, and it can lead to a very dark place. The more you suffer, the more you fear in life, and the smaller your world gets. You start to become very reclusive. You don't want to talk to anyone. You don't want to see anybody. You're unable to work, as was the case for me. You can't find any joy in just normal activities like eating out or going on a holiday or going for a weekend away. It was pointless because I would just suffer so much pain. So all I wanted was to get better. I just wanted the pain to go away. And I thought, the less I do, the cleaner I eat, the stricter my protocol, then the more I'm going to improve. But it was the complete opposite. I actually just got worse and worse. My mental health was completely declining, and it was a miserable place to be. So the one thing that made the biggest shift that I want to share in this video is facing your fears. It's so important to face all your fears one by one and just overcoming them, because the more you do that, the more your world expands. You start to enjoy life. You start to feel more normal. You start to feel more healthy. And I know how difficult this can be, because it's the scariest thing. You're basically having to confront the things that scare you the most at that moment in time. And why would anyone ever want to do that? But from everything I've learned, from everything I've experienced, I've understood that waiting to feel better before you engage in activities or just do the simplest things in life is only going to prolong it. So the best thing to do is to start taking steps towards doing the thing that fears you the most. And these activities are things that you would normally do if you were fully healthy. It's the things that you would enjoy doing. It's things like doing some sort of movement or exercise, calling your friends, spending time with people, going to events, having weekend trips away. And I know all these things I had to stop for several years, but because of that, I just wasn't making any progress. And I wish I started sooner. I wish I started realizing that there's nothing actually physically wrong with me. Even if it shows up in a test result, structurally I'm completely fine because my symptoms are triggered by emotional episodes, negative thought patterns. It's not actually triggered by doing something physical. It's all to do with the fear that's attached to doing the thing that scares you the most, that triggers your pain. So if you take away one thing from this video, just know that you don't need to wait till you're better, till you're free of pain to do the things that you want to do. The way to overcome your chronic pain is to actually start engaging in the things you enjoy, is to actually start thinking with a healthier mindset. What would you do if you're completely healthy? And embrace those feelings, embrace that mindset. And this is all part of reprogramming the brain. The more we can overcome those fears, the less the brain will project these pain and symptoms onto our body, because it's misinterpreting that we're in danger when we're not. We're completely safe, but it doesn't know that. It's programmed this way. So we need to rewire it to teach it that we're completely safe. And the way to do that is to engage in normal activities. So I'll give you two examples. One example is sitting on a sofa. Sitting on a sofa was scary for me because it would trigger my pain. All the tightness throughout my back up to my head would just flare up and it would be horrible. And I'd suffer for several hours and sometimes even the whole day. And it was just ongoing for years. And I used to sit on a desk chair for several years because I needed it to be a certain height, I needed it to be a certain angle, otherwise it would just flare my pain. I just avoided any scenario where I had to sit on anything other than my desk chair. Even sitting in the car was horrible for me. I hated it. It just used to cause so much pain for me. But now that I've understood brain retraining, brain rewiring, neuroplasticity, whatever you want to call it, I now know that there's nothing wrong with my body. The brain is creating the pain and the symptoms due to the fear associated with everything. So I got rid of my desk chair, I started sitting on my sofa, and yes, it was really uncomfortable, very painful, sat on it for 5 minutes, suffered a lot of pain, but I started using self-talk and telling myself, there's nothing actually physically wrong with me, there's nothing dangerous about sitting on a sofa, so why on earth am I experiencing it? There's no need to overreact. This pain isn't going to do any permanent damage. I'm going to sit here regardless. And I was talking to my brain saying, you're going to get used to it. So I did this on repeat. I sat for a few minutes and then I got up. I sat for a little bit longer and then I got up, and I just kept repeating it. And it took about 1 to 2 weeks, and now I'm able to sit on a sofa without my pain flaring whatsoever. I'm still going through my recovery process with chronic pain, but fewer and fewer things are triggering that pain with the more things that I do. Another example was getting up in the morning. First thing in the morning, I'd have a rough night's sleep. I wouldn't want to do anything. I couldn't do anything. I felt so rough that I couldn't engage in conversations. I couldn't do any activities. I couldn't do any housework. So I literally just got ready and then I watched TV and just ate food, and that's it, in pure silence. But a few months ago, once I started learning about this approach that I'm practicing, I realized that I needed to change my behavior. I needed to change my habits. So I decided to get up first thing in the morning around 6:30 and just go for a walk. It was the last thing I ever wanted to do before. For several years, I just didn't want to go for a walk. But this time I just said to myself, I'm going no matter what, no matter how rough my night goes, no matter how bad I feel in the morning, I'm going to go for this walk. And it's going to be a nice, gentle, relaxing, pleasant walk. Even though I didn't feel like it was a relaxing, pleasant walk because it was very painful, but I was insistent that I go on this walk, and I did it every day. And I believe it took me about 2 months before I got to a stage where I could start talking to my wife in the morning. I could start doing the housework. I was able to do some errands in the morning. I was able to drive my car and go to a park. It just got easier and easier, and the flaring of my chronic pain just lessened over time. I'll be completely honest, I still do have difficulties during sleep hours, but I can tell it's getting easier the more I keep practicing this approach. So using self-talk is a great tool to overcome your fear, exposing yourself to the fear itself, and not having to wait till you're better to do the activity that you want. You have to start engaging in normal activities that make you feel normal, that make you feel healthy. The things you would do if you're already healthy, just start making steps towards doing them now. So hopefully the things I shared in this video is helpful for you, and if it was, feel free to leave a comment. And I'm in the process of putting together a one-on-one coaching session that will be available at the time I post this video. So feel free to check it out if you need some help where I can provide some guidance, and I'll catch you in the next video.